Hello, and welcome to Walk the Cinema podcast, where we walk the cinema so we can talk the cinema. This week is our debut episode, and our debut movie is going to be Malcolm and Marie, that you can stream now on Netflix. I'm your host, joined by Kate.
Hello.
Hello.
Well, I guess to start off with, why don't you tell us a synopsis about the movie?
So basically, the movie starts with a director and his love interest coming home from his movie premiere that is indicated went over well, but as dubious as she seems a little upset, and then we basically followed their night.
Yeah, I definitely thought that the opening scene did a pretty good job at establishing who these characters are and the things that they've gone through, because you see him being very upbeat and happy about something, and you kind of see Marie act kind of over everything. Like, she's not really interested in why he's happy or
Yeah,
what's making him
I feel
excited
like
about anything.
the beginning of the movie before the title screen gave me a false sense of security when Malcolm started playing "Down and Out" in New York City by James Brown.
Mm-hmm.
The fat cats and the bad hats. That was everything looked pretty. There was a good song, and you got into the rhythm of it, but just they fooled me into the movie.
I know you don't think the movie's good. I thought it was okay at best. Back to the part that I actually liked, which was the first 20 minutes roughly. I thought that it was a really good representation of what it's like to argue as a couple.
Oh,
They,
sure, for sure. Because she gets mad at one point that he didn't mention her in the speech, and my immediate thought is that you would kill me if I forgot to thank you.
oh, for sure. That's exactly what my first thought
Yeah,
was.
immediately.
If you made something that was a movie that was you were proud of, and I was there with you through the whole process, and you didn't thank me, that would be World War III, honestly.
I know you. The listeners might not know you, but it comes from a good place, I guess. Trying to save
Yeah.
your face here.
Uh-huh. But so I think that it was a really good representation of of arguing, I
Okay.
guess. But as the movie progresses, it feels like there's two different things going on, and it felt like two different voices being written in the same script to me,
Yeah.
and they didn't mesh well.
Because
It's,
Sam Levinson, the director, is kind of using this movie and these characters as his mouthpiece for his hate for critics.
mhm.
It becomes less about the argument and more about bashing critics through these black voices.
Yeah, I did pick up on the the white lady from the LA Times was essentially a character, and they uttered that phrase so often that it was a little jarring, because
It was
it's also
five,
not
six
that.
times. It was very often.
Yeah, and it's
You
not
got
like a
really personally
natural.
offended by that one person, and he went for a.
It's just not a natural kind of sentence structure.
I feel like
Like, it feels like they're having to say that line. It
yeah,
doesn't
but
feel
the
natural.
script in general doesn't feel very natural because they keep stopping and restarting fights. It feels like a very repetitive, like they're having the same fight over and over
Yeah,
again in very unnatural type monologues.
yeah, and like back to fighting as a couple. I feel like you even though there's moments of like lull in the fight, and then you like start ramping up again, I feel like you don't go from completely wanting to destroy each other to then kind of being okay with each other and being, oh, like, let's pause this fight and read about your review and let you go off on this tangent about the critics
Hmm.
and stuff. And then I'll ask you some hard hitting questions again about a relationship. Like, I think it'd be really hard to care about what's happening in like their professional lives, like with the movie, when their personal lives are kind of falling apart completely.
Mm. Also, it just feels disrespectful to yell at someone that just made you mac and cheese because that's a blessing. I love mac and cheese a lot.
I know.
I would
If you,
do the Kraft mac and cheese ad if they asked me to.
Mhm. You're already trying to get us sponsors from Kraft.
Just if I have to buy it, I'll buy it. I mean, I'm not gonna stop eating the Kraft mac and cheese. And I would like to congratulate uh, John David Washington for delivering a monologue while scarfing 2 bowls of mac and cheese. That was pretty impressive. I could not do it.
I thought that, yeah, the just a note on the acting in and of itself, I thought was pretty decent compared
It was
to,
very good. I would say it was good. I think
yeah.
if I'm gonna praise Sam Levinson on anything, he got a lot out of Zendaya in this performance. Even though I must say the dress she was wearing just screamed, "Look at me, I'm an adult now. This is not the Disney Channel anymore." I feel like it was a little bit. It's probably too sexy, maybe. Not that there's
I
anything wrong with it. She could do whatever she wants.
I don't think it
I
was exactly like that. And
Well,
I think
she
her,
wants to leave the mold of being a child actress. She talked about it from the criticism of the age
mm,
difference between the two. It's
oh yeah.
He's way older than she is, and she said that she's an adult now, and people don't want to see her as an adult.
Yeah, I think it would be kind of hard, but I think that she did it in a way that I didn't think it was too jarring. I mean, you take a look at some of the other child stars, some of their transitions into adult are jarring, you know?
Yeah.
So,
No, I'm not saying it's jarring. It wasn't unclassy. It was just seemed very obvious that she wanted to be an adult. She wanted to establish herself as an adult, which is fine. She did a great job. They both did a great job. The movie looked great. It was very pretty to look at. I've
yeah,
seen people comparing it to ads for underwear or perfume, and yeah, it looks a little bit like an ad. It's still pretty.
I mean, I guess I didn't really get that when I was watching it, but I can kind of see with you mentioning it now.
Yeah, it just it was very taxing to watch the whole movie. Because again, it was so repetitive in its script. It just kept going back to the argument that you just start hoping like that they just decide to stop and sleep and stop whining.
I mean, I get that, and I guess it wouldn't be great to, it's not great to watch a movie, I guess, about how real an argument is, but I feel like when you're arguing with someone, you do kind of bring up the same points over and over again, even if you've kind
That's
of
true.
moved on from that.
Yes, that's true. But
You,
you wouldn't, argue with someone that's just sitting in a bathtub for 15 minutes. They have
yeah, not
they
saying
have to be very
anything.
awkward to film. Just hey, you sit in the bathtub quietly while someone yells at you. It's just again, it's not very natural to me. It just comes off weird.
Yeah, some of the dialogue just in general was kind of odd.
I think it was odd because Sam Levinson used this facade of a movie about a relationship when it really was him being political about the Hollywood landscape.
Yeah, but even if it was his way of kind of making a statement on the Hollywood landscape, he kind of is somewhat self-aware, but not self-aware enough that he realized that maybe he too was also falling prey to the Hollywood
Yeah, I don't
landscape,
think
I
he's
guess.
self-aware. I think he
But
might
I think he
think
was
he's
self.
self-aware, but I think he
But
holds himself to such a high regard that's unrealistic and just not true. Because you could just a quick glance at his cinematography or filmography, my apologies, would show that he's just not that good. So he comes off a little pretentious when Malcolm, which feels like a semi autobiographical character, is comparing himself to great historic directors, it comes off as a little pretentious.
yeah, but I also think that in the words of Zendaya, also kind of rebuttaling him, that kind of shows some self awareness because she says something about how nobody cares. They don't actually care about like any of the statements that they're saying or like reviewing, I guess, or saying it's good because it's a statement on this political issue. They don't actually care about it. They're just kind of using it for clicks.
I think he wrote those parts for Marie as like a self-awareness bit, but it didn't really come off as self-aware because she says at one point
The,
that he's scared to write about himself.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think he's trying to be self-aware, but it doesn't come off as self-aware.
Yeah,
But I think
I
he
agree.
was trying to be self-aware.
It was, but it didn't work. Maybe
Yeah,
feature films are not his forte. I haven't seen Euphoria, so I can't say how good he is at making
like episodic
TV
things.
episodics, but to me, it's just. I haven't seen his other feature films. I didn't have time to watch the Assassination Nation, which apparently is where this hate for the white lady stems from.
I just think that whole thing was hilarious about she basically becomes a character, like a third character that you never see.
Malcolm and
But
Marie and the white lady.
yeah, they speak in her voice so often and they mention her so much. It felt like she was part of this relationship
Actually,
and argument too.
there's something to it where Malcolm wants to read the review that the white lady from the LA Times wrote, but it has a paywall. And I would just like to say, in behalf of all of us, fuck paywalls.
I know, paywalls are the worst. I mean, I was trying to read a story about my own family that was posted in a newspaper and I had to pay for it, or would have had to pay for it.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
paywalls annoy you. That you can't find your
Yeah.
wallet. That's also annoying.
I feel like we've all been at that position as well. We're just trying to find something and getting angrier that we can't. I do think that the relationship aspect of the
Yes, let's
film
talk
to me
positives.
is really good in my opinion. I did enjoy that part. I wish, and it makes me kind of wishful that we had more of their relationship because like I feel like there were so many points made in the movie about their relationship that I wish we could have gone more into, especially when there's a point where they're like okay and then he leaves to go to the bathroom and she's just laying there and she starts like crying and then she asks him when he comes back why he didn't cast her in the movie about her. And that just felt, I remember thinking, yeah, I was like, yeah, I was thinking that the whole time. Why didn't he cast her? Because it sounded like she was an actress or is an actress trying to get a role. Why didn't he cast her in this movie? And I feel like they kind of just,
Do you have an answer for it? Did you understand why he didn't cast her?
I mean,
I sure didn't.
I guess, yeah, exactly. That's what I'm like, I didn't get the, like a satisfactory answer, which is, I mean,
Like
you
the
don't
whole
get really
movie doesn't
satisfactory
get you
answers.
any type of answers. It kind of just goes on and then it ends.
Yeah. And I think that is
There's no,
probably the intention.
but there's no payoff. You know, it's a very exhausting
Yeah.
film from a story standpoint, and it builds up to absolutely nothing. I feel like there's no intention with the film besides bashing the critic. That's the whole point of the film being made,
Yeah.
and all the political statements that he says through Malcolm's voice. But I do agree when he says that not all movies that start people of color need to be political.
Mm-hmm.
But Sam Levinson makes the opposite point because this movie is extremely political and it stars people of color.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought of that point, but you are right where there's no it's or
And I
it's
still don't understand why this white male decided to use people of color as his mouthpieces, but
mm,
they're two great actors, so I'm not going to complain. It was very well acted.
yeah, and
At the end of the day, I can't hate the movie as much as we've criticized it here, especially me. I can't hate it because there's something to it. I can't put my finger on it, but there's something to it.
oh yeah, there's definitely
Coupled
something
with
to
the
it.
performances, and it's so beautifully shot,
Hmm. I think
and it has mac and cheese, which I love.
I think that back to there's no payoff. I think that maybe in Sam Levinson's mind, the payoff is that kind of towards the end scene where she's saying all the things he could have said to thank her
Yeah, he talks
at
in
the
his
premiere.
voice.
Yeah, she
That
she
was
has
the
that.
best dialogue in the whole film.
Yeah,
It was
and
very
all he can
emotional.
do, all Malcolm can do is say "I love you, Marie," and he's tearing up because I think that's the payoff that he kind of finally realizes that he has.
Maybe that can be taken away as the payoff, but I still think the movie wasn't made to reach that conclusion. I think he was made to attack the white lady.
Oh, for sure. I feel like it was too much of a screw you to the white lady at the LA Times for it to be anything
Well,
else. Or it seems like maybe he had this plot for Malcolm and Marie, the relationship, and then had this plot for the vendetta against the white lady at the
yeah.
LA Times and kind of mashed them together to create something during quarantine. I don't I don't
Yes,
know.
we haven't mentioned this was like one of the first projects to be filmed during the COVID-19 epidemic.
Yeah.
They were very proud of that when they started. They're very proud of how they were taking precautions and used a very small crew.
Yeah, I read they only had about 12 people on the site at a time, something like that. It was very small.
Well, I'm glad they were safe.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you
But it's
got anything more to add?
no, I was just gonna say it's kind of cool that they decided to make a movie during quarantine, you know?
Oh,
Most
but
people were just,
there are other movies during quarantine, and I was gonna say that most of them didn't work, but we're not talking about other movies here today.
yeah,
All
that's
right.
true.
So if you got nothing else to add, we can jump to our ratings.
I'll give it I'll go first since mine's a little bit less, I guess, in depth of a rating. I gave it a 5. It was, 5 out of 10. I gave it a 5 out of 10. It was closer to a 6 in my mind than a 4.
Mm,
There's just something about how jarring I think the dialogue is for me and just the plot line in and of itself that made me like it less, I guess.
okay. I also gave it the same rating of 5 out of 10, but on the opposite end, it was closer to a 4 than it was to a 6. But it's still a 5 out of 10. I think we both agree on that. There's a lot of improvements that could have been made.
For sure.
In general, it's not a worst movie I've ever seen.
Yeah, not
I
the
never
worst.
wish to see it again.
You have seen it twice already.
I have. I've seen it twice for the podcast, so that's about it. That's gonna wrap it up for episode number 1
Yeah, I think we
of
did.
Walk the Cinema.
Um, you guys can follow us on Letterboxd and Twitter at Walk the Cinema.
Yes, if you go to our letterbox, there's a link tree that's gonna give you all the links that you need if you want to follow us. There's also our individual accounts that we might post on the Walk the Cinema podcast letterbox page. So if you want to follow us individually, if you like one of us best, not trying to play sides here, but yes, thank you for listening.
And we'll see you the next episode.